Welcome to another awesome episode of Detections. I'm your host, BSD Bandit, along with
the recently returned from a fixed car, XL Detrades.
Tell us all about it, man. How
God.
you been this?
Well, had unexpected car payment. My starter died on my car. The day that I was making a 2-hour trip to go drop off some birthday presents for a friend.
Wow, talk about double the payments.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Luckily it started when I was after I got done delivering, so I was able to get back home, but it's been it's funny, like, even though COVID's down, I'm not really going anywhere. Not having the option of a car was adding a little bit of extra like anxiety to stuff.
Okay. Well, I mean, it happens,
It shows a first world problem. I'm used to having a thing.
Hey, could be worse, could be internet's down. Gasp. Okay.
That would just mean I have a legitimate excuse not to work.
Look at that. Shame on you. Shame on you. He didn't mean it, internet gods. He didn't mean it. He's playing. Okay, show us. Oh my goodness. Well, again, my week has been pretty awesome. Insanely busy. I've been all over the place. Did a couple of talks here and there.
Yeah, what? Talks what? Tell me more about that.
Well, just one for it was like networking professionals night. It's called SIMPA, and this first time I heard of SIMPA. It's Cincinnati's network professional night. Like, they had hackers night. So I got to just pretty much do the intro to kind of kick off the event, but I stuck around for a while, learned about some cool stuff. They did an offensive security demo night, so that was pretty awesome. So shout out to them. Also, man, it's just been so much. Then went on the podcast. Well, not even the podcast. We just had a Google Meet with Hacking is Not a Crime. So I'm also affiliated with Hacking is Not a Crime. So that was pretty fun this week.
Excellent.
And of course, I always have fun at Red Siege. Shout out to y'all.
Hey, if you're going to be doing that, we may have to talk about the whole syndication thing, because that's not going to happen. So.
But what is going to happen, speaking of happenings, we have an awesome guest tonight. Okay? And this guest is the founder of SecCon 202. I want y'all to give a nice Detections round of applause for Miss Stephanie Lewis. Woo! Welcome, Stephanie.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great here on Detections. How's it going for you?
It's going good.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to definitely, finally get you on the show. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself. We're dying to know, because I've seen you all over the internet with SecCon 202, and of course I've met you in person at several different security conferences. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
For sure. So I'm originally from Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, and I went to university up there.
Okay.
Started studying business of economics, and got done. Actually, I was actually in a class, and I was taking this IT class, and I was like, oh, maybe I should get into computers. And then one of my professors at the time was teaching us PHP, and he's like, yeah, you don't want to be spending the rest of your life doing this. I was like, well, okay, maybe not. But I love computers. So I ended up going to a community college, because everybody was telling me, oh yeah, you go to university just to learn the theory or what have you, kind of the background knowledge. But if you actually want to learn how to do it, you should go to a community college. So that's what I did. Got a certificate in software engineering, and I was just yeah, this is what I wanted to do. And I like to build things, but I'm just I want to build something that everybody can use, and it had something to do with the computer. So glad I got in there. I worked a few jobs, and I started how SecCon 202 came about was, I moved down here to DC,
Okay.
and I worked, for a few companies down here. But I kind of wanted to get into more security. So I did run a small tech group up in Detroit for a little while, about a year and a half. But when I came down here, after I went to DEF CON, actually maybe the second or third time that I went to DEF CON, I'm like, we need another security group here in DC, and all we do is like hands-on workshops. And so I was literally at DEF CON, and it was a Jason Street that was giving a talk, or he was on like a
Jason
panel.
Street. Okay. Yeah.
And I asked him a question. He just really encouraged me. He's like, go for it. And I'm just like, whoa, who is this guy? Like, it was literally like the 11:30 p.m. I walked over to, I believe it was Planet Hollywood. I walked with some group of my friends from both Detroit and DC. So it was like a wonderful night. And we went to go hear his talk, and it was just life-changing. It's like one of those talks when you're like, aha, I know where I want to go with this. Okay. And so SecCon 202 was born. And basically it stands for SE is Southeast. Con 202 is because in DC. And we are, because I really wanted to focus on that Anacostia area. So we were actually meeting at the library over there a few times. And then the holidays happen. And obviously this pandemic. So we've been online, but the goal of the group is to encourage more African Americans into cyber, and not just into cyber, but actually, help them do the Security Plus, like study groups for that, or Network Plus, and not just learning what you need to do to pass a test, but also just, developing a certain mastery to it. When you deal with coding in cyber, it's just going beyond the book, essentially. And so I just hope that, more will come into the group and whatnot. I helped one gentleman. He was coming out of college, and, I looked at his resume. I said, okay, you need to learn some AWS cloud stuff and a few other tools. And he did that, and now he has a very successful job. So that's encouraging to me too, that people are finding their way through, because, cyber, the whole world, like, to me, I was like, okay, this is a huge black box. I don't know what's what, where to go, or what to do. And so I actually joined Tyrone's group, DC Cyber Warriors. Okay. And that helped. Yeah, I know Tyrone. Good guy. Yes. And, and then I went to B-Sides, Anova, and ShmooCon. And I actually stumbled upon those. I think somebody posted either up on Twitter or something like that. And I literally, for the B-Sides, I think it was B-Sides DC, I literally just like signed up, and I was like, okay, I'll just go. Paid $45 for this one talk, and it was on Intel, and I was like, wow. Okay, now it kind of like refined exactly where I kind of wanted to be in the cyber world. And and SmoothCon was great, and I helped out at another cyber conference. This is all before the pandemic, obviously, but I just met and learned a lot, and I just I enjoy our field because it's ever changing. It's not the same thing, even week to week. You know what I mean? And everybody has a chance to learn, develop, grow, and master this.
So this is so true. Every day I learn something new. Even if you've been in the field for a while, I always learn something new, or and always trying new things. So if you think life is boring, or if you think that anything is boring, you'll never be bored in the world of tech, in the world of security. There's always, and I mean always, something new to learn. And speaking of what we're going to be learning about tonight, and this is something I'm deeply interested in as well, because I don't know too much about it, and this is why we wanted you on the show, so you can help clear up a lot of the mystique around it. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. I'm pretty sure there's several other users out there that feel the same way. And I've been dying to ask this question. What is DevSecOps? Please tell me.
Yes. So it's a lot. I mean, people have various definitions for it, but basically it's about securing the whole pipeline of when you go from code, build, deployment, and monitoring, like that whole the whole DevOps cloud. And so a lot of people have different methodologies and technologies and what have you, but that's basically is just integrating security into how you do DevOps. And to me, it's speaking from kind of like experience. I was always wondering when I throughout my whole like coding career, let's just say, I was like, why are we just coding these applications and we're not really securing them? It's just like we code and then we send it off, deploy it, and then anybody can have at it. I was always curious about, okay, well, how do I protect what I build? And then I got into, the corporate world, and I noticed that they kind of like segregate it, right? So they'll build the code and then they'll like deploy it, whatever, and then they'll give it to their cyber team. And so that's how it was, and it still kind of is. It's like two separate teams or two separate areas, when really it should be integrated from the beginning is my thought process. It's like we should start with and figure out, when you do the user stories, also how do we secure from the beginning all the way through the middle and into the end. So at my previous employments, it was just like, yeah, we build, and then at the end you try to figure security out, but then that's too hard or that you make it more difficult to fix what you already built, instead of like when it was small. It's always easier to fix something that's smaller than when it gets to this colossal application. And now it's like, okay, now what do we do? So I think that's why you have some data leaks and breaches, because companies, it's all about just get it out there to the customer. Well, you get it out there and somebody hacks into your pipeline, and then now malware's out there, not just in your system, but now it's to your customers. So people don't really think about it. I think it's more like a risk benefit type of thing. Like, okay,
so like a risk analysis type.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what I'm getting here, so with DevSecOps, right? So it's not a tool set. It's a methodology, say like a OWASP. Is that safe to assume? With DevSecOps, it's kind of more like it's a methodology. It's kind of like similar to OWASP. And also, my next question is, now I noticed you said the cloud, right? That you apply a lot of this stuff to the cloud. Can this be applied to like on-prem as well too? Because a lot of places, like even though cloud has been around for a very long time, we still have companies that prefer to have a lot of their stuff still either on-prem, or they still want to do like the kind of like the hybrid situation where they have a little bit like probably maybe their development environment in the cloud, but a lot of their production is still on-prem. Is that conducive to how does DevSecOps work in that kind of environment?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are just moving to the cloud, especially in my I can't really name, well, if they do have something on-prem, like you say, they're transitioning it off. So that's always been my experience. I don't know of anybody that's still haven't worked with anybody that still has something on-prem. They kind of like are migrating, or they are there. And so I think that's really just the future of everything. Everything's going to be either on AWS, Google, any other system out there. I don't see companies, let's just say, in the next 2 to 3 years having a lot of things, on their own site for.
So even government facilities? Because I know, government facilities, it takes them a little bit longer. And I mean, Exile, I'm pretty sure you've had experience with this as well. Like government facilities kind of take a little bit longer to adopt anything. Pretty much.
You're right, but hold on. I just had a cat crawl into my arms because I'm in his chair, and I'm trying to make sure he doesn't chew my headphone cables while we're recording.
Maybe I said Devsecops too loud, and what is it? He's trying to figure it out.
No, he's claimed my office chair, and he's trying to push me out.
Mm-hmm. See, that's what. That's fine. But yeah. So with Devsecops in general, so it's like you said, it's kind of because I worked as a developer all but like 6 months in my lifetime. I did development work. It was just Python dev work for a law firm for like 6 months. It was a 6-month project, but I tell you one thing, that 6 months felt like it was many years because when I thought that I had everything coded, everything was working, they were excited. Next thing you know, hey, can you add this feature? Hey, can you add this feature? But then as you're adding more features, nobody's adding in the part about security.
Right.
Nobody's adding in the part about, okay, yeah, we add this more. Now I'll add a feature, but then it could break something in production, and then the application will still continue to work. But now I probably opened up several different security vulnerabilities by doing that.
Right, and even when you bring in third-party libraries, say for instance, some people may not do the right scans. Like static application security testing or source composition analysis. So, you have to do these different scans to make sure, because every time you bring in a third party or another element, you're opening yourself up to another form of attack. And I don't know how much, people really think about that, especially when a new tool comes out. It could be anything.
Right.
Yeah. You just said a few things there that made me think of a question. So
yeah, go ahead.
Considering it's not too much to think of me like a small toddler or a young child. What does it look like to do this DevSecOps like on a daily, monthly basis? Like what does that look like? Because there was a few things you said in there that was like, I have no idea what's going on there.
Yeah, so it's one element of it is testing. And I think testing is very, very important. Like, for an example, sometimes people build the application and then they want to write their test. Well, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, I guess, so to speak. It's good to do your testing beforehand. Or some people might configure and try to do testing, do the build, but don't really put in the testing.
So where does this fall? Like someone is writing code, has already written code for.
Is that the first step?
Or something like where is this testing at in the
right?
process?
So you code first, and hopefully you have like some type of IDE security plugins and things like that. You do the build, and then the build checks for different type of vulnerabilities. Like if you have passwords in there, if you have, just any type of
any type of security settings or settings in general.
Right. And it also looks for vulnerabilities in your third-party libraries. So that happens during kind of like the build process, and then even when you do staging and production, like there's other type of pen testing, manual web application pen testing, things that you can do to kind of figure out, okay, where could a hacker or, stage their attack from. And then there's also like monitoring. I think it's very important to, read the logs, see what's going on there, and, so that kind of what's happening. But I think developers need to be more involved kind of like in every single stage of this process, because sometimes they'll have like a developer team and a dev cloud team, right? And I think that kind of hinders this process working more smoothly than what it could be. I think that everybody should be kind of woven in together. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, got you.
So I got a question. I got a thought here really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So does that mean because we're looking at DevSecOps, which is like a collection of development, security, and operations. And then we also have this term DevOps, which is the combination of development and operations. So does that mean like standard DevOps doesn't do any vulnerability scanning or any vulnerability testing?
Right. I mean, for the most part, and especially from my previous history, like I said, like you have a developer team, they develop, you give it to the dev cloud team, they just put it up there. And I always thought, I'm like, well, wait a minute, shouldn't we run like Arachne against this, or shouldn't we run some type of security tool, against this to make sure that there's no type of vulnerabilities? But it's always about get the product out.
Okay. So quick question, and this is me just in thinking mode. So the first step of this process, and this is just me, 5-year-old BSD bandit trying to figure this out. So the first step in the DevSecOps process, build, right? Developers are building whatever application for whatever company, right? And then from there, next step would be like staging, right? And then that's when I guess that's where all like the magic happens, where with staging, like, okay, the application is built, and then it should be, if in a perfect world, should be someone like running security tools against it or doing a pen test or whatever else at that staging. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I think we can kind of break it down like this. So you have step one would be like the coding, right? And you can do
build.
The coding first. First you got to code the application, right? Then you can do like secret detection and management, which you're looking for like user password, email, that type of thing, and testing it again, testing about the authentication credentials, basically. Okay, and then you go into like the build, right? So now you're building, you're compiling all of it together, and then you're running like source composition analysis, and you can use various tools to see about the vulnerabilities. Like I said, when you bring in like third party, libraries and things like that, then you go into testing, and so there's different testing tools that you can use with that as well. Some of the same ones that you can use in the coding phase. And then you go to, so some people have like a testing environment, then a staging, then production. Some people just have testing and production. So that varies.
So it varies.
That varies.
Okay, got you.
And this kind of where we can get into, what is it, the green blue that they have using the AWS model of DevOps?
The green blue model?
Yeah, so it was just something that I was working on at a previous job with, helping them get set up doing this, where the testing, staging, and development was set up in like what they call green blue, but it's like active environments that switch, and it's kind of like an old networking terms, a hot warm setup. Whatever's one is currently worked on, whatever's doing the current patching, or whatever's doing the current iteration is one, while the next project that's in line gets staged and ready to go in the second environment.
Yeah, that's like I said, everybody does something a little bit different. With that model though, your testing environment mirrors your production though, right?
It depends, it should, but you have certain places that it might not, So like you said, I guess it just depends on the environment. I guess it depends on the industry that, so it's a lot of deciding factors there. But in a perfect world, yeah, it should. Always got to put that perfect world out there. That's like the disclaimer.
Yeah.
So my next question is, how long have you been doing DevSecOps?
So not for that long. In the primary reason, I think, why is because like I said, people kind of just keep you in one lane. Like, okay, you're a developer, that's it. But on my, previous employments, I always had to touch something, with the cloud. So I never was just a developer, so to speak. And I think that's definitely like the future of how it's going. Developers now, you just can't be a developer. Now you have to be, you have to be very good at, DevOps. So I think that's definitely going to change, especially after this pandemic. That's definitely going to change at least this segment of our industry. It's like, you got to be both. And then soon you'll have to be all three, right? Developer, DevOps, and then, DevSecOps too.
So, question now, and this is 5-year-old dancing BSD bandit asking another question. Could I take like DevSecOps by trade? Like I said, penetration tester, done threat hunting. Could I take?
Hold on, you're cutting out.
DevSecOps and plug it into like any like an environment, like pretty much if it's at like a pen test company or even with threat hunt, can I take DevSecOps and plug that into a model? I hope I'm asking the question correctly. Again, I don't know too much about it, but that's
I think DevSecOps. Sorry, my phone, the mic kind of cut out a little bit, but I think from what I heard, like you want to take DevSecOps and put it into, your company's process, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that, in order to do that, you definitely have to look at people's skill set and, what they are capable. And also, this is another thing. The process matters kind of more so than the tool set. I see companies do this all the time.
Okay.
They want the latest and greatest toy, right? And the latest and greatest toy can be like this mammoth, let's just say, for instance, library, where it's just an overkill, where literally you just need one or two features from it, but they'll download or try to integrate the whole thing when, like I said before, they just want one or two features. So it's like an overkill, right? And so you definitely have to be careful about that. You have to look at, okay, what's the end goal and work your way back from that. Sometimes it's just you may need to use Jenkins or you may need to use something else. That's not, but you may need to use certain testing tools or you may not. I definitely think that you got to look at kind of like the overall goal and what people can handle, and also the scale of your application. If this is just a prototype, like I said, you don't need some massive tool to do testing against it if it's, not even carrying that much data in it to begin with. But, and then, something that I tell people to be careful about is I understand AWS are coming out with all these tools, this database, that database, Glacier, S3 buckets. They're coming out. The newest tool that they came out with just escaped my mind. But you kind of got to be careful because you don't want to get too bogged down with
tools and toys.
Well, going with, all AWS. Like, that's all we do. That's all we... Because, AWS goes down sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh, we've learned.
Yeah.
Kinesis.
Yeah, so everybody's, like, so invested in AWS that it's like... You can't put all your eggs into one basket, I think is the main thing. It's kind of like, okay, try, Azure, try Google Cloud, even though a lot of Google products change a lot. But
what about Azure? Is Azure come into play there?
Yeah,
a little bit?
I think so. I mean, I say all that now just to say I work mostly with, AWS, but, I think Azure is really trying to come up in the game. And but it's hard to, like, work with. And I'm sure you guys experience this too. When you work with a client, it's like all they think is AWS, and it's like, no, that's maybe or all they think is one tool, right? It's like, no, let's try this tool. Right. Well, no, this tool needs to work, and we got it this far configured. Can you just, so, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West out there.
Pretty much. So. Speaking of, and we'll say the Wild Wild West, because that's like the current state of the world. What do you think is the current state of DevSecOps since you've been in it? Is it still kind of like the Wild Wild West, or has the process been refined a little bit, or tell us, what do you think the current state of DevSecOps is? And the second question would be, what does the future hold for DevSecOps? Where do you see it going and growing into?
Oh, yes, I definitely see that it is here to stay. And just to answer like the first part, I think companies are going to start to pay more attention to it, especially after, Marriott got breached. The school district in Baltimore, they had a data breach too. And I think people are going to see how costly that is. And I think they're going to start to pay attention to it more. I definitely see like more emphasis kind of being put on it because, one of my family members works at a particular company that I'll keep nameless, and they had a data breach, and, that took them down for a few days, for sure. And that's
right.
a lot of money. You lose profit, you lose, you're paying people basically to, not come to work because you can't run anything, and it's stressful. And business owners, I think, are beginning to see that if they had it happen to them or if they hear about it, because everybody thinks, oh, no, not us, because people want to go after the Marriotts, people want to go after this, that, and the third. But no, everybody's vulnerable, even the individual person. So it doesn't matter how big your company is. Somebody could practice on a small company and say, okay, I got this good, then go after a bigger company.
Yeah. I have a friend that has a small videography company, and he built their website, and it's on WordPress. And like the past 2 months, he's been bouncing back and forth with some vulnerability in one of his WordPress plugins, causing his site to get popped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was just saying, like, to back up what you're saying, like, it's a 2-person company that has their website constantly getting hit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I just think that it's going to be very, very important in the future. And also it's going to be less of, okay, let's just build and send this out. It's going to be, okay, what security, what protocols, compliances do we have in this? And that also kind of like led me to create Lumbe Security. I was walking with some of my friends in the industry, and I was just like, we were just talking about, our jobs, what have you. And I'm just like, wow, we really could do this better. We could really listen to the client. Really, we know our stuff, and, we can build a nice pipeline, and we can, get the client's prototype and products up. And so that's what, we got together, and that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm very excited to really get that off and going more so in 2021. That's what I'm looking for, at least something, and because I think that's what's needed. I think you really have to educate the client and get them to see that, once your stuff is hacked, that's kind of like it, it's not just your data stuff is out there, but your systems compromised. It's kind of like you got to start from square one again, almost.
Yeah. I mean, well, start from square one or the last good backup that you had, and hopefully, people still believe in backups like that out there. I hope, but you just never know. So it's kind of luck of the draw.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, how good is your backup? How good did you save everything? And what are you paying for to back your stuff up? Not everybody has, I guess I would say, the best systems to back their stuff up on.
Also, this is true, especially for like I said, the 2-person company or a 5-person company. I mean, backups could be almost really non-existent because they're so focused on getting the company up and running and keeping it running. The last thought is like backups. In the word of the wonderful Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face. And yeah, it happens.
Yes. Or they don't invest that much into their backups, and they may have one, but the quality may not be there.
Okay. Well, that is true too. Now, my next question, and this is for someone, so for the average person, and this is someone who's grown up. They're not 5 years old anymore.
So I'm done babysitting for the night. Okay.
Yes, you're done babysitting for tonight. The diapers are off. All right. So tell us.
Speak for yourself.
Well, okay. Wah.
No, you said the diapers are off. Like, speak for yourself.
Okay. Well, yep. I'm on my own with that one. I'm a Lone Ranger. Okay. Uh, so for someone who is like brand new, and tell us what would a person have to do if they're interested in DevSecOps and getting into DevSecOps? Tell us what would a person have to do? What courses would they have to take? What steps would they have to take actually to get into DevSecOps?
Well, I would advise them to learn how to code, especially Python. A lot of the tools that I see, when you want to do some things on AWS, like Lambda stuff, a lot of people are doing them in Python. You could use Java, but
Okay.
like I said, I'm a Python fan. Okay, so I'm gonna promote
Woohoo!
Python all night. So I would really encourage that. Linux, know your
Okay.
Linux command. Get off that Windows. Sorry, I have a favorite. And yeah, just try to first work with S3 buckets. Try to do some Lambda functions. Start small.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would definitely go that route. Try to migrate a database, what have you, and you can do all that. I have not taken any of the AWS like certs. I may take one or two of those, but for me, it's about so long as you can do it. Most people don't
Right.
care about the piece of paper because you can have the piece of paper but not know what you're doing on the job. You know what I'm saying? So
That's true.
yeah.
Very.
So yeah, I would just say that definitely learn how to code, and because I was kind of surprised when I
Okay.
first got into cybersecurity.
Uh-huh.
Some people didn't know how to code. I was like, well, wait a minute, you guys. You find the vulnerability, but how do you go and fix it then?
Exile. What's our sound on detections from Law and Order? Dum dum. Pretty much. Yep, you have uncovered interesting mystery there. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folks that don't know how to code, or and
I didn't know how to code before I got in. It's still a weak skill for me. Like, I learned to read, but when you come up through, there are certain areas, especially on the blue team, that you can actually avoid learning to code and still work within the industry.
Really?
On the detection side, yeah.
pen testers too. There's pen testers that don't know how to code, but they can read code and modify it to make it do weird things.
Correct. So we're not going to really get into the debate because this could be a long conversation of, is Python really a coding language or is it more of a scripting language?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it is object oriented,
Right.
that is one of those religious debates when it comes to it. So when I say code, like you're going to ask me to write something in C, C#, C++. I'm going to be going to Code Academy day one as a noob and being like, teach me. But
Because
because I don't know. But a lot of the stuff I can sit down, and if I don't if I'm not familiar with the language, it doesn't take long to figure it out. Because I have had a lot of exposure to, Drupal, JavaScript, Cold Fusion, Python, various forms of C. Like, as much as I don't like it, there's some really base level stuff in assembly that I can understand by looking at it. But as far as writing it and developing, I might as well be back in middle
special
school.
skill set.
So what do you guys do
Yes.
then? So you're on the blue team, and I'm so interested in, learning more. But I feel like the blue team kind of gets overshadowed by the red team, especially at the last conference that I was at.
Oh, it hella does.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the things why I started this podcast, because everyone's like, red team, pen testing, hacking, it's so sexy, but it's like, that's, kind of cool, but the real work comes in the defense side. Like, how do we fix? So a big thing that it comes with on the blue time actually is collaboration, right? So let's say that you as a developer, and we've, let's say a SOC has received a report from a pen tester that discovered a vulnerability in some code, then what would happen is it would be, especially with bigger corporations, because they have certain like scopes of work and statements where things are siloed off and have to be done by certain groups for whatever reason. Like sometimes it's risk, sometimes it's just because that's the way managers want it. Then everyone's working together to solve that. So it might be the pen tester said, here's the problem. Here's specifically where I found it. The developer tries to fix it, and then the SOC and the forensic investigators are validating that it is fixed, and they have a way to detect it, or if it's still not or if it still shows as vulnerable, that kind of stuff.
Dun, dun.
So how long have you been doing Blue Team for?
Coming up roughly 6-ish years.
Wow.
Woo.
I mean, it kind of puts me as long in the tooth for the industry, but it also doesn't feel that long. But I have personally, I've played around for a while. Like I started with Backtrack 3, and I can't say much else because of statute of limitations.
Yeah.
No, that's a joke. But
I'm not even gonna give that the Law and Order.
So, like, even though I've only been professionally doing it for 6 years, it's something that I've personally tinkered with for a while. Like, I can't even think anymore of how long it's been. Because, like, I remember being in the 90s in the high school, getting my first computer, and the first thing I did was intentionally break it to try to figure out how to fix it.
Oh, wow.
You hacker. Yeah. So normally, on detections, right, we usually do this thing called the attack and...
Well, hold up. We didn't even talk about this beforehand. We forgot about this. So, I mean, do you really want to drop it on her in the hot seat like this? And the
No.
whole attack surface reduction is a thing with us during a normal thing. The guest...
No. This is not... No, I'm dropping it on myself.
All right.
This is the BSD Bandit has learned a tremendous amount tonight, and I'm dropping the attack vector on myself from a methodology standpoint. So what I mean from this is, as I'm doing different engagements now, and then I'm actually looking at this and going to be doing some more research as well on my end to try to incorporate this methodology when I'm actually testing something, or when I'm actually working with code in general. Especially with this past week, I've done a mobile app assessment. And with mobile apps, it's more, you get more down into the weeds of like reverse engineering and everything else. So this would be a perfect model or mindset to kind of plug into what I've been doing with the reverse engineering side of the house, as far as like, okay, what was the developer thinking when they actually first coded this? Okay, and thinking about like the build and, just from that standpoint, that's kind of my attack vector from a methodology standpoint tonight. Now, as far as a defense or detection, this methodology can be applied to even far as like threat hunting, especially the threat hunting side of the house. I truly think this can help and aid in far as like the detection process as well too. Especially when, like you said, looking at the code, looking at the build. Okay, how long ago was the code written? So that kind of makes you think, okay, was this ever staged? Has this ever gone through the staging process, or was it coded and just never really, noticed? Or, are they monitoring this particular code that's actually running in the environment? Right. So that would be, I'm doing double duty tonight, Exile. So that would be like something from a methodology standpoint, as far as like the detection piece. That's all I got for tonight.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, I think with the methodology, like if people look up what's called continuous integration or continuous development, it's a DevOps, DevSecOps model that has everything kind of always in state, right? And that is something that I think, like you're talking about, that is good for the blue team to consider. So it's not like because traditional, like if you think about traditional, like agile workflows, it's in planning, right? And then once planning's done, it's in development. Once it's development's done, it's in staging, then it's in testing. What the continuous model, and it sounds like what we were talking about tonight, is the continuous, where it's always like the application's always in each one of those phases, right? So while you may have like something at release candidate 1 or alpha for the next iteration with patches, you're just releasing a new one into production, and the next iteration's already inside the process somewhere.
Gotcha. So once again, before Exile takes us out of here, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show this evening.
Yeah, for sure.
And definitely everyone out there, all the listeners, please, if you haven't already, follow SecCon 202 on Twitter. I definitely am.
Thank you.
She has some awesome Stephanie has some awesome concepts, some awesome information. You definitely check her out on Twitter. And do you have anything else to say before we head out, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, definitely check me out on Twitter. We got the Discord going, so definitely ask for an invite. You know, I asked it out. We got SecCon 202, the website. You guys can get good information about red team, blue team. I had conferences up there. We try to highlight, especially the free conferences. And we have like cert information, you know, what books or stuff to look at online. And we have a newbie section. You know, if you're new to it, definitely hit that up so you know who to follow on Twitter and whatnot. Yes, we got all that. And definitely look for the Bay Security. We're getting all that stuff together and launched. And yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited for you. And Exile.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on again, Stephanie. We appreciated the time, all the wonderful information you shared. Definitely DevSecOps, DevOps is a thing that we do hear about a lot, and it is also like cybersecurity, the modern alchemy where it seems to be made from magic, and people think we can turn lead to gold by just sprinkling pixie dust on stuff.
Yes. You are the genie, and I have unlimited wishes. Give me the
Yeah, we look forward to seeing what else is going to come out with SecCon 202, what you have to do in the future. And for everyone else out there, our listeners, we appreciate the time that you've taken. As we go forth in these holidays, continue to be merry as you go forth and find badness.